The massive alien ship hung in space like a dark mountain. Its hull stretched for miles, covered in weapons that could destroy entire cities. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed behind his back as he looked at the small blue planet below. "Another primitive world," he said to his second-in-command. "This will be easy." For 50 years, the Zephyrian hegemony had been taking over star systems across the galaxy. 12 different alien races worked together under one banner, crushing anyone who stood in their way. They had destroyed civilizations that were thousands of years old. They had burned worlds that refused to surrender. Now they had come to Earth. Kethvar had studied the reports about humans. These creatures lived on just one planet and a few small colonies. Their ships were slow and used old technology. They had no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no faster-than-light missiles. They still used metal bullets and rocket fuel. "Send the surrender message," Kethvar ordered. The communication officer, a being with purple skin and 6 eyes, nodded. "Broadcasting now, Admiral." The message was simple and had been used on hundreds of worlds before. "Surrender now or face complete destruction. Join the hegemony as slaves or watch your species burn." Kethvar expected the usual response: fear, panic, maybe some desperate begging. Most primitive species gave up within hours when they saw the size of the hegemony fleet. Instead, something different happened. A calm voice came through the speakers. It belonged to a human female, speaking in clear, steady tones. "This is Ambassador Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Council. We have received your demand for surrender." Kethvar leaned forward. The human sounded almost bored. "We reject it completely," Chen continued. The alien crew exchanged looks. This was unusual but not unheard of. Some species tried to act brave before they gave up, but Chen was not finished. "For the past 2 years, we have tried to contact your fleet with offers of peace. We have sent diplomatic messages. We have offered trade agreements. We have proposed cultural exchanges. Every single message was ignored." Kethvar frowned. This was true, but irrelevant. The hegemony did not negotiate with primitives. "We have offered you our friendship," Chen said. "We have shown you our willingness to coexist peacefully. You have chosen to respond with threats of war and slavery." The human paused. When she spoke again, her voice was colder. "This is our final warning. You have 72 hours to withdraw all ships from our solar system. Leave now, and there will be no conflict between our peoples." Kethvar laughed. Several of his officers joined in. The idea that these primitives could threaten the mighty hegemony was absurd. But Chen was still talking. "If you choose to stay, if you choose to attack our worlds, then you will face the consequences of your decision. You will learn what happens when someone threatens humanity's home. You will discover what we are capable of when we fight for our survival." The transmission paused again. In the silence, Kethvar could almost feel the human's eyes staring at him through space. "You came here thinking we would be easy prey. You looked at our simple ships and old weapons and decided we were weak. You made the same mistake that many others have made throughout our history." Chen's voice grew harder. "You forgot that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who has nothing left to lose. You forgot that cornered animals fight the hardest. You forgot that we humans have spent our entire history learning how to kill things that are bigger and stronger than we are." The alien bridge had gone completely quiet. Every officer was listening now. "We did not want this war," Chen said. "We tried to avoid it. But you have chosen this path. You have decided that our home, our families, our children are acceptable targets for your conquest." The transmission crackled with static for a moment. "So let me be very clear about what happens next. You have 72 hours to leave. If you are still here when that time expires, we will consider it an act of war. We will respond accordingly." Chen paused one last time. "And when we do respond, when we show you what humans are really capable of, remember that you chose this. Remember that we warned you. Remember that you could have left in peace." The transmission ended. Kethvar stared at the communication console for a long moment. Around him, his crew waited for orders. "Sir?" asked the purple-skinned officer. "Should we begin the attack?" Kethvar considered this. The human's words had been strange. Most primitives either begged for mercy or made empty threats about their ancient gods protecting them. This human had sounded different. She had sounded confident. But confidence meant nothing against superior firepower. No, Kethvar said finally. Let them have their 72 hours. It will give them time to think about their situation. Maybe they will come to their senses. He turned to his tactical officer. How many ships do the humans have? Approximately 200, sir. Most are converted civilian vessels. Their largest warship is only half the size of our smallest destroyer. And we have? 3,000 ships, sir. Plus orbital bombardment platforms and assault troops. Kethvar nodded. The numbers spoke for themselves. Even if every single human ship fought to the death, they could not hope to stop the hegemony fleet. Prepare for invasion, he ordered. When their deadline expires, we move forward. This will be over quickly. But as his officers hurried to carry out their orders, Kethvar found himself thinking about the human's words. There had been something in her voice that bothered him, not fear or desperation, but something else. It almost sounded like pity. He shook his head. Primitives often said strange things when faced with death. It meant nothing. In 72 hours, the human homeworld would belong to the hegemony. Their species would serve as laborers and soldiers. Like all the others before them. It would be easy. It always was. 72 hours later, Admiral Kethvar gave the order to attack. The hegemony fleet moved forward like a steel wave. 3,000 ships advanced toward Earth, their weapons charging and their shields glowing. It was the largest invasion force the galaxy had ever seen. Kethvar watched from his command chair as the human fleet moved to meet them. 200 small ships spread out in a thin line between the aliens and their home planet. It looked pitiful. Sir, the humans are moving into attack formation, reported his tactical officer. Kethvar studied the display. The human ships were arranging themselves in clusters, with the larger vessels in front and smaller ones behind. It was a basic defensive pattern, but it would not help them. Open fire when we reach optimal range, he ordered. But something was wrong. As the two fleets grew closer, Kethvar noticed that the human ships were not slowing down. They were speeding up. Sir, the enemy vessels are accelerating directly toward us, the tactical officer said, confusion in his voice. Are they trying to ram us? Asked another officer. Kethvar had seen desperate tactics before, but this seemed like madness. A few ramming attacks might damage some ships, but they would not stop an entire fleet. The first shots were fired by the hegemony's long-range weapons. Bright beams of energy lanced through space toward the human ships. Several hits connected, tearing holes in metal hulls and sending debris spinning away. But the human ships kept coming. They are not retreating, sir, the tactical officer reported. Even the damaged vessels are maintaining course. This was unusual. Most species pulled back their wounded ships to safety. These humans seemed to be using their damaged vessels as shields for the others. Then the human weapons opened fire. The aliens had expected primitive missiles and kinetic rounds. What they got was much worse. The human ships launched everything at once. Nuclear missiles, railgun slugs, plasma torpedoes that should not have existed on primitive ships, and weapons that the hegemony computers could not even identify. How do they have plasma weapons? Kethvar demanded. His intelligence officer checked his displays frantically. Sir, our reports show they should not possess this technology. The human attack was not just surprising because of their weapons, it was surprising because of how they used them. Instead of aiming for the largest targets, they focused on specific points in the alien formation. They went after command ships, communication vessels, and supply craft. They know our fleet structure, the tactical officer said with growing alarm. They are targeting our weak points. The human ships reached the alien fleet and chaos erupted. Instead of trying to fight in neat formations like civilized beings, the humans scattered and attacked from all directions at once. They used their smaller size to dart between the massive alien vessels, firing at close range, before spinning away. Kethvar watched in shock as a human destroyer, its hull cracked and bleeding air, rammed itself into the side of a hegemony cruiser. The explosion took out both ships. "Sir, the humans appear to be using kamikaze tactics," an officer reported. But it was worse than simple suicide attacks. The humans were coordinating their sacrifices. When one ship made a ramming run, others would follow up immediately to attack the confused survivors. Captain Maria Santos piloted her ship, the New Harmony, through a storm of enemy fire. Half her crew was dead, and her ship was falling apart, but she was not done fighting. "Target that command ship," she ordered her weapons officer. "Give them everything we have." "Ma'am, we only have 3 missiles left." "Then, make them count." The New Harmony dove toward a massive alien battleship. Enemy guns tracked her movement, filling the space around her with deadly beams. Her shields were down, and her armor was melting, but she held her course. At the last second, she fired her remaining missiles and pulled her ship into a sharp turn. The missiles struck the alien ship's bridge just as its own weapons destroyed the New Harmony. Santos died with a smile on her face, knowing she had just killed an alien admiral. This scene repeated itself across the battlefield. Human ships fought with a fury that the aliens had never encountered. When their main weapons were destroyed, they used their backup guns. When their guns were gone, they used their engines as weapons. When their engines failed, they used their ships as guided missiles. "Sir, we are taking heavy casualties," the tactical officer reported to Kethvar. "The humans are fighting beyond all tactical reason." Kethvar stared at his casualty reports. In just 2 hours of fighting, the hegemony had lost over 300 ships. The humans were down to less than 50 vessels, but they had made every loss cost dearly. "How is this possible?" he muttered. His intelligence officer looked up from his console, his purple face pale. "Sir, I am detecting massive energy signatures from the inner solar system." "What kind of energy signatures?" "Unknown, sir. But they are big, very big." Kethvar felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. "Show me." The main display switched to a view of the solar system. What Kethvar saw made his blood freeze. Dozens of new contacts were appearing throughout the system. Space stations that had looked like simple mining platforms were suddenly bristling with weapons. Asteroid bases that should have been empty were launching fighters. Even the moons around the gas giants were lighting up with energy signatures. "Sir, we are detecting new human fleets approaching from multiple directions," the tactical officer said, his voice shaking. "Hundreds of ships. That is impossible," Kethvar snarled. "Our intelligence said they only had 200 ships total." "Our intelligence was wrong, sir. More human ships were appearing every minute. They came from hidden bases scattered throughout the solar system. Some rose from underground facilities on planets that were supposed to be uninhabited. Others emerged from asteroid belts, where they had been hiding among the rocks. The humans had not put all their ships in one place for the aliens to destroy. They had spread them out, hidden them, and waited for the perfect moment to strike. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving a message from the human commander." "Put it through." Sarah Chen's face appeared on the screen again. Behind her, Kethvar could see the bridge of a human warship that was clearly much more advanced than their intelligence reports had suggested. "Admiral Kethvar," she said calmly, "I hope you are beginning to understand your situation." Kethvar said nothing. "You came here expecting to fight farmers and merchants," Chen continued. "Instead, you found wolves. Did you really think we would show you our true strength before the fighting began?" On his tactical display, Kethvar could see that the humans now had numerical superiority. Somehow, impossibly, they had more ships than his invasion force. "This is your last chance to withdraw," Chen said. "Leave now, and we will allow you to go in peace." Kethvar looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at him, waiting for orders. The pride of the hegemony demanded that he fight on, but Chen was not finished. "If you choose to continue this battle, we will show you why humans have never lost a war for survival. We will teach you what happens when you threaten our home." The transmission ended, leaving Kethvar alone with his thoughts and the growing certainty that he had made a terrible mistake. Admiral Kethvar chose to fight. It was the worst decision he had ever made. Within 6 hours of that choice, the true horror of humanity's preparation began to reveal itself. What the hegemony had thought was a simple farming colony on Kepler 442b suddenly transformed into a fortress world that defied all their expectations. Captain Zara Morrison stood in the command center buried 3 miles beneath the planet's surface. Above her, alien ships were bombarding what they thought was the main settlement. In reality, they were attacking empty buildings and fake structures designed to waste their ammunition. "Status report," Morrison ordered. "All decoy targets are performing as expected, Captain," her tactical officer replied. "The aliens have expended 60% of their bombardment missiles on empty buildings." Morrison smiled grimly. "Excellent. Begin Phase 2. The planet's surface erupted in 1,000 different places at once. What the aliens had thought were mining operations revealed their true purpose. Massive rail guns, hidden in fake mining shafts, rose from the ground and began firing at the ships above. But these were not ordinary weapons. For 3 centuries, humanity had been haunted by a single terrifying question. What if we are not alone? And what if they want to destroy us? This fear had shaped everything about human civilization. Every colony was built with invasion in mind. Every structure had a military purpose. Every citizen was trained for war. The mining equipment on Kepler 442b had been designed to move mountains. With some modifications, it could also launch chunks of metal at incredible speed toward targets in orbit. "Direct hit on enemy cruiser," reported the weapons officer. "Hull breach detected. They're losing atmosphere." Morrison watched the tactical display as more hidden weapons revealed themselves across the planet. Anti-aircraft guns rose from farms. Missile batteries emerged from schools and hospitals. Even the planet's weather control systems had been weaponized, creating electromagnetic storms that interfered with alien sensors. "Captain, we're receiving reports from other worlds," the communications officer announced. "The defense plan is working everywhere," Morrison nodded. This was not just one planet fighting back. This was the result of 300 years of human paranoia and preparation. On Earth itself, Ambassador Sarah Chen coordinated the defense from a command bunker that had been built into the planet's core. Around her, displays showed the status of human forces across dozens of star systems. "Report from the Proxima colony," an aide announced. "They've successfully destroyed 2 alien supply convoys using converted cargo ships. And New Geneva? The aluminum processing plant has been converted to weapons manufacturing as planned. They're producing plasma torpedoes at 3 times the expected rate." Chen studied the reports flowing in from across human space. Everything was going according to the plan that humanity had spent centuries developing. The plan was simple. Make every world a trap, every battle costly, and every victory meaningless. The hegemony was discovering that humans did not fight like other species. When most civilizations went to war, they followed rules. They protected civilian areas. They targeted military installations. They tried to minimize casualties. Humans did none of these things. On the agricultural world of New Eden, farmer soldiers had turned their entire planet into a weapon. They used their knowledge of chemistry to create poisonous gases that killed alien ground troops. They modified their crop-spraying aircraft to deliver biological weapons. They even weaponized their livestock, implanting explosives in farm animals and letting alien forces capture them. Captain Thexmar, of the Hegemony Third Fleet, had landed on New Eden expecting to secure food supplies for his ships. Instead, he found himself trapped in a nightmare. "Sir, we've lost contact with the 7th Landing Division," his aide reported. "What happened to them?" "Unknown, sir. They reported entering a farming settlement to secure grain stores. Then their communications went silent." Thexmar activated his vehicle's long-range scanners. What he saw made his blood turn cold. The farming settlement was empty, but it was not abandoned. It was a trap. The grain silos were filled with explosives. The farmhouses contained automated weapon systems. Even the fields themselves had been planted with mines disguised as vegetables. "Pull back all ground forces," he ordered. "This entire planet is a weapons platform." But it was too late. As his ships tried to retreat, the farmers revealed their final surprise. The irrigation systems that watered their crops had been converted into massive electromagnetic pulse generators. A wave of energy swept across the planet, disabling every piece of alien technology on the surface. Thexmar's ships fell from the sky like broken toys. This was happening on world after world. The hegemony had expected to fight a military. Instead, they were fighting an entire civilization that had been designed from the ground up for total war. Every human child learned basic military tactics in school. Every adult could operate weapons and explosive devices. Every colony had hidden bunkers stocked with supplies that could last for years. The aliens began to understand that they were not fighting against humanity's military. They were fighting against humanity itself. On the research station, Olympus 7, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was putting the finishing touches on her latest creation. The hegemony thought they were attacking a simple scientific facility. They had no idea that for the past 50 years, the station's research had focused entirely on developing new ways to kill alien invaders. "The virus is ready for deployment," she reported to the station commander. "What does it do?" Rodriguez smiled coldly. "It targets the specific brain chemistry of Zephyrian species. It will not harm humans, but it will cause complete neural breakdown in any alien who comes into contact with it. How do we deliver it? Simple. We surrender." The plan was insanely dangerous and perfectly human. The research station would allow itself to be captured. The aliens would take the human prisoners aboard their ships, and then the virus, hidden in the prisoners' clothing, would spread throughout the enemy fleet. "Are you sure about this, Doctor?" the commander asked. Rodriguez thought about her daughter, who lived on Earth. She thought about her grandchildren, who would grow up in slavery if the aliens won. "I'm sure," she said. 3 days later, the entire hegemony Second Fleet was dead, their ships drifting empty through space, while human boarding parties stripped them of useful technology. Admiral Kethvar received these reports with growing horror. His invasion force was not just being defeated, it was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that fought without honor, without mercy, and without limits. "Sir, we've lost 12 more worlds," his aide reported. "The humans are using tactics we've never encountered." "What kind of tactics?" "They're turning everything into weapons, sir. Civilian structures, industrial equipment, even their children's toys. We found explosive devices hidden inside teddy bears." Kethvar closed his eyes. This was not war as the hegemony understood it. This was something far worse. "Sir, there's more." The aide continued nervously. "The humans appear to be enjoying this." "What do you mean?" "Our intercepted communications show them laughing, sir. They're making jokes about our casualties. Some of them are treating this like a game." Kethvar felt sick. He had fought many wars, but never against an enemy that took joy in destruction. The truth was that humans had spent their entire history fighting things that were bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than they were. They had learned to use cunning instead of strength, creativity instead of power, and ruthlessness instead of honor. For 3 centuries, they had prepared for this exact moment. They had built their entire civilization around the idea that someday, something would come to destroy them. Now that day had arrived, and humanity was ready. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it was angry. 6 months into the war, Admiral Kethvar realized that the hegemony was losing. It was not just the casualty reports, though those were bad enough. Half his fleet was gone, destroyed by an enemy that should have been crushed in the first week. It was not just the failed invasions, though every single human world had become a death trap that consumed ships and soldiers. It was the fact that the humans were getting stronger. "Sir, we have a problem," his intelligence officer announced during the daily briefing. Kethvar looked up from his reports. These briefings had become exercises in absorbing bad news. "What now?" "The humans are using our own weapons against us." The officer activated a holographic display showing the wreckage of a hegemony destroyer. The ship had been completely gutted, but not by human weapons. It had been destroyed by its own plasma cannons. "How is this possible?" Kethvar demanded. "Our analysis suggests that the humans boarded the vessel, captured the crew, and then spent several days learning how the weapons systems worked. They then modified the ship and used it to attack our supply convoy. Kethvar stared at the image. They learned our technology in just a few days? It appears so, sir. And they did not just copy it, they improved it. This was the nightmare that the hegemony had not anticipated. Humans did not just fight back. They learned from every encounter. Every ship they captured, every weapon they studied, every prisoner they interrogated gave them new knowledge, and they were frighteningly good at using that knowledge. Engineer Sarah Kim worked frantically in the underground laboratory beneath New Tokyo. Around her, a team of human scientists dissected captured alien technology with the focused intensity of surgeons. The energy shield generator is based on quantum field manipulation, she explained to her team. But their design is inefficient. They're wasting 60% of the input energy. Can we fix it? Asked her assistant. Kim smiled. We can do better than fix it. We can weaponize it. This was happening in laboratories across human space. Every piece of alien technology was being taken apart, understood, and rebuilt with human improvements. The aliens had designed their shields to protect against energy weapons. The humans modified them to explode outward when overloaded, turning defensive systems into bombs. The aliens had created faster-than-light communication systems. The humans hacked them and used them to deliver computer viruses that spread across enemy fleets like a plague. The aliens had built weapons that were efficient and reliable. The humans made them more powerful and completely unpredictable. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of her converted cargo hauler, the Iron Will. 6 months ago, it had been a simple transport ship carrying supplies between colonies. Now it bristled with weapons that should not have existed. Ma'am, we're approaching the Hegemony Patrol Fleet, her tactical officer reported. Vasquez looked at her ragtag fleet. 15 ships, all of them converted civilian vessels. Cargo haulers turned into missile platforms. Passenger liners converted to electronic warfare ships. Research vessels rebuilt as stealth attack craft. Against them waited 30 hegemony warships, each one designed specifically for battle. All ships. This is Commander Vasquez, she announced over the communication system. Remember, we're not trying to outgun them. We're trying to outthink them. The battle that followed became known as the Miracle of Proxima Station. The human ships did not attack in a straight line like military vessels. Instead, they scattered in all directions, each one following a completely different strategy. The cargo haulers used their massive storage bays to launch clouds of small missiles that overwhelmed enemy defenses. The passenger liners used their powerful communication systems to jam alien sensors and coordinate attacks. The research vessels used experimental weapons that the enemy had never seen before. But the key to victory was not any single weapon or tactic. It was the way the humans thought about warfare. The hegemony ships tried to fight according to established military doctrine. They formed proper battle lines. They targeted the largest threats first. They followed rules of engagement that had been developed over thousands of years. The humans ignored all of those rules. Instead of targeting the largest ships, they went after support vessels. Instead of forming battle lines, they used hit-and-run tactics that kept the enemy confused. Instead of following military protocol, they improvised constantly. When Vasquez's ship lost its main engines, she used the ship's artificial gravity system to slingshot around a nearby asteroid and ram an enemy cruiser. When another human vessel ran out of missiles, the crew used the ship's mining equipment to fire chunks of metal at incredible speeds. The aliens had never faced enemies who fought like this. Their computer systems could not predict human tactics because humans made up new tactics during the battle. Sir, we cannot maintain formation, reported the Hegemony Fleet Commander to Admiral Kethvar. The enemy ships are attacking from impossible angles. How are they impossible? They're using civilian equipment as weapons, sir. Our tactical computers don't know how to respond to attacks from modified farming equipment and construction tools. Within 4 hours, the Hegemony patrol fleet was completely destroyed. Not a single human ship was lost, though several were badly damaged. The victory at Proxima Station sent shockwaves through the alien alliance. For the first time in their history, the mighty Hegemony had been defeated by converted civilian vessels. But the humans were not finished. They had learned something important from the battle. They did not need to build military ships from scratch. They could take any vessel and turn it into a weapon of war. Within weeks, every human transport ship, mining vessel, and research platform had been converted for combat. The aliens found themselves facing not just a military, but an entire civilization that had transformed itself into a weapon. Dr. Marcus Webb studied the psychological profiles of captured alien prisoners in his research facility on Mars. What he found disturbed him, but it also gave him hope. The alien soldiers are showing signs of severe mental stress, he reported to military command. What kind of stress? Asked General Harrison. Fear, sir. They're afraid of us. The doctor pulled up brain scans of hegemony soldiers. Their neural patterns show constant anxiety. They're not sleeping properly. They're jumping at shadows. Some of them are refusing to board ships for combat missions. This was something the aliens had never experienced before. In all their previous conquests, they had been the monsters that other species feared. Now they were on the other side of that equation. Human psychological warfare was unlike anything in the galaxy. Where other species tried to break enemy morale through displays of superior firepower, humans attacked the mind directly. They broadcast recordings of alien screams to enemy fleets. They sent packages containing the personal belongings of dead soldiers to alien families. They even used captured alien communication systems to send fake orders that led enemy ships into traps. Sir, we're receiving reports of mutinies across several fleets, Kethvar's aide informed him. Mutinies? Yes, sir. Alien crews are refusing to fight. Some ships have simply left the battle zone without orders. Kethvar was not surprised. He had read the reports from the front lines, stories of human soldiers laughing as they died, of civilians who treated war like a game, of children who drew pictures of dead aliens and gave them as gifts to their teachers. The hegemony was learning that humans did not just fight differently, they thought differently. Where aliens saw war as a terrible necessity, humans seemed to see it as a natural part of life. Sir, there's something else, the aide continued nervously. What? The humans are singing. Kethvar looked up sharply. What do you mean, singing? Our intercepted communications show human soldiers singing songs while they fight, sir. Battle hymns. Victory chants. Some of them are making up new songs about killing us. The Admiral closed his eyes. This was beyond his understanding. How could any species find joy in destruction? But perhaps that was the point. Perhaps the humans had learned something about war that the rest of the galaxy had missed. Perhaps the species that enjoyed fighting was always going to beat the species that feared it. Sir, the aide said quietly. What are your orders? Kethvar looked at his casualty reports one more time. The hegemony had started this war with 3,000 ships and millions of soldiers. Now they had less than half that number, and the remainder were demoralized and afraid. The humans, meanwhile, seemed to grow stronger with each battle. Prepare a message to the Hegemony Council, he said finally. What should it say, sir? Kethvar thought about Sarah Chen's warning, given so long ago. She had told them they were making a mistake. She had warned them about the price of this war. Now he was beginning to understand what she had meant. 18 months after the first warning, the war ended. It did not end with a final battle or a desperate last stand. It ended with a simple message transmitted across the galaxy from the Hegemony Council to Ambassador Sarah Chen. We surrender. Chen received the message while standing in the command center beneath Earth's surface. Around her, displays showed the status of human fleets across dozens of star systems. Green lights indicated successful missions. Red lights showed ongoing battles. Blue lights marked captured alien technology being reverse-engineered. There were far more green and blue lights than red ones. Ma'am, the message is confirmed, her aide reported. Chen nodded slowly. She had expected this moment for months. The alien alliance was falling apart. 3 of the 12 member species had already withdrawn from the war. The others were on the verge of revolt. Where do they want to meet? She asked. Haven 7 Station, ma'am. Neutral territory. Chen smiled without humor. There was no such thing as neutral territory anymore. Every star system in this part of the galaxy had chosen sides. Most had chosen to stay away from the humans. 2 weeks later, Chen sat across from Admiral Kethvar in a conference room aboard Haven 7 station. The alien looked like a broken creature. His once proud uniform was wrinkled and stained. His forearms moved nervously, and he had trouble meeting her eyes. The contrast with their first meeting could not have been greater. 18 months ago, Kethvar had commanded the largest invasion fleet in galactic history. Now he commanded less than 800 ships, many of them barely functional. "Ambassador Chen," he began, his voice hoarse. "The Hegemony Council has authorized me to discuss terms for an immediate ceasefire." Chen leaned back in her chair. "I'm listening. We are prepared to offer significant territorial concessions. The Hegemony will withdraw from all contested systems and recognize human sovereignty over your current holdings." "That's a start," Chen said calmly. "What else?" Kethvar's hands trembled slightly as he consulted his notes. "We can offer technology transfers, full access to our faster-than-light communication systems, our energy shield designs, our medical databases. We already have all of that," Chen pointed out. "We took it from your ships." The alien's shoulders slumped. "Yes, I am aware." Chen studied him for a moment. This creature had once threatened to enslave her entire species. Now he sat before her like a beggar, asking for mercy. "What can you offer us that we don't already have?" she asked. Kethvar was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "We can offer our promise never to threaten humanity again." "Your promise?" Chen's voice was ice-cold. "The same promise you made to the people of Zerion Prime before you burned their world? The same promise you made to the Centauri Republic before you enslaved their children?" The alien flinched. We were different then. We did not understand." "Understand what?" "What you are." Chen waited for him to continue. "We thought you were like the others," Kethvar said slowly. "We thought you would surrender when faced with superior numbers. We thought you would beg for mercy. We thought you were just another primitive species that could be easily conquered." He looked up at her, and Chen saw something she had not expected to see in alien eyes: genuine fear. "We were wrong about everything," he whispered. Chen stood up and walked to the window overlooking space. Outside, she could see the human escort fleet that had brought her to this meeting. 50 ships, all of them carrying weapons that had been impossible 18 months ago. "Do you know what the hardest part of this war was for us?" she asked. Kethvar shook his head. "Holding back," Chen said. "Every weapon we used, every tactic we employed, every strategy we implemented, all of it was designed to minimize our own casualties while defeating you as quickly as possible." She turned to face him again. "We could have made this war much worse for you. We could have used biological weapons that would have killed every living thing on your worlds. We could have deployed nanomachine swarms that would have consumed your entire fleet. We could have turned your own planets into weapons and hurled them at your star systems." Kethvar stared at her in horror. "But we chose not to do those things," Chen continued. "Because despite everything you did to us, we still hoped that someday we could coexist peacefully." The alien was trembling now. "The question is," Chen said, sitting back down, "have you learned enough from this experience to honor a real peace?" Kethvar nodded frantically. Yes. Yes. We have learned. The Council has voted to dissolve the hegemony. Each species will return to its own territory. There will be no more conquests." "Good," Chen said. "But that's not enough." She activated a holographic display showing a map of the galaxy. "From now on, any species that threatens human space will face the same response you received. Any attack on human colonies will be considered an act of war against our entire civilization." Chen highlighted several star systems in red. "These systems are now under human protection. Any species living there has our guarantee that they will never face invasion or conquest." Kethvar looked at the map in shock. The humans were claiming responsibility for defending dozens of smaller civilizations. "You cannot protect everyone," he protested. Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Admiral, 18 months ago you attacked us with 3,000 ships. Today, we have over 5,000 ships operational, with more being built every day. We have weapons you've never imagined, and tactics you've never encountered. She leaned forward. And most importantly, we have something that your species lacks. We actually enjoy fighting. The truth of this statement hung in the air between them. Throughout the war, human soldiers had fought with the enthusiasm that had terrified their enemies. They had sung songs while killing aliens. They had celebrated victories with parties that could be heard across star systems. They had treated the deadliest war in galactic history like it was the most fun they had ever had. We learned something important about ourselves during this conflict, Chen continued. We learned that we are very, very good at destroying things. The question now is whether the galaxy wants us to keep practicing that skill. Kethvar understood the threat. Humanity was not just offering peace. They were offering protection to their allies and destruction to their enemies. What do you want from us? He asked. Simple, Chen replied. We want you to spread the word. We want every species in the galaxy to know what happened here. We want them to know that humans tried to offer friendship first. She stood up again. We want them to know that when friendship was rejected, we offered war instead. And we want them to know which one we're better at providing. The peace treaty was signed 6 hours later. The hegemony agreed to pay reparations, share all their technology, and withdraw from dozens of star systems. More importantly, they agreed to serve as ambassadors for humanity, spreading the story of the war across the galaxy. Within months, requests for diplomatic contact began arriving from civilizations throughout known space. Species that had never heard of humanity suddenly wanted to establish trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. The message was clear. It was much better to be humanity's friend than their enemy. Chen returned to Earth to find her world transformed. The planet that had been a simple backwater 18 months earlier was now the capital of a growing interstellar alliance. Ships from dozens of species filled the orbital stations, all seeking human protection or partnership. In her private office, Chen looked out at the stars and reflected on what they had accomplished. Humanity had survived its first contact with hostile aliens. More than that, they had thrived, but she also understood the price of their victory. The galaxy now knew what humans were capable of when threatened. They had revealed their true nature as warriors and conquerors. There would be other wars. Other species would test humanity's strength. Other conflicts would arise, but Chen was not worried. Humanity had spent 3 centuries preparing for the day when someone would threaten their home. Now, they were prepared for the day when they might need to threaten someone else's. A message arrived on her desk from the outer colonies. New alien contact. Another species requesting diplomatic relations. Another potential friend or enemy. Chen smiled and began drafting her response. After all, humans had warned the galaxy about the price of choosing war over friendship. Now it was time to show them the benefits of making the right choice. The universe was full of possibilities, and humanity was ready to explore all of them, one way or another.